Okay, so we have the action index which retrieves all the countries. So now let's code the getCountryById action which retrieves a specific country based on the country's ID. And this will be the detailed page for each country. The country object only has the ID and a name, so it's not exactly a lot of details to display. However, we can later add some new items to the object, or we can add new things to display on the page, like all authors from that country, for example. But enough talking, let's start coding. Let's create an action which will return a view with a country DTO object in it. This is the object whose properties we will display in the view. So after the index action, I'll create another, and it's going to be another iActionResult, and I'll call it getCountryById. And of course, we need to pass in the integer country ID to it. And note that I'm naming it country ID because this is the convention I decided to follow for each IDs. We discussed that in the previous videos. So this action will return view along with the country DTO object that we will retrieve from the API call. So first, we need to execute the API call from the country repository GUI and assign the result to a variable. So let's create a variable, which I'll call country. And we'll go to our country repository dot get country by ID, and we will pass the country ID to it. So this is the request we are making, and we will get the country returned back and stored in our country variable. So our variable now holds the country DTO object of the country whose ID we passed into the call. And of course, we need to validate it and make sure that an object was actually returned. If we passed in an invalid ID, then the country doesn't exist and object will be null. So we can verify that with an if statement and see if the country equals null. And if this is null, then we need to add an error message to the model state that we will display on the view page. So in our model state, I will add an error message using the add model error method. And the method takes two parameters. The first one is a key that we don't have to use, so I'll leave it blank, and the error message itself, which is a string. So the string can simply say error getting a country. So this is our model state, but we should also probably return a simple message for the user, a little more detailed. And just like we did before, we can use a viewBag.message. So we will create a property message and assign it to a viewBag. So we will do viewBag.message. And again, it's gonna be a string. And we can add some more detail to it. So I'll use the interpolation again. So I'll use the $sign in front of the string. And the whole message can simply say there was a problem retrieving country with ID, and we can display the actual ID. So here is the full message that we can display on the page if there was a problem retrieving the country. And at the end, we return the view with the country DTO object now stored in the country variable. And again, if it's null, then an empty view will be displayed with just the error messages. Otherwise, an actual data will be sent to the view. So after the if statement, we can do a return. And we are returning a view with the country object. Alright, so the controller is finished. Let's create a view next.